history of homeopathy, which is one discipline within many tools that a naturopathic doctor can use. We're going to go really in depth in the history of herbal medicine. There's quite a lot going on there. And then we're going to cover history of Chinese medicine. There's a trip to Chinatown that is offered if you want to go. $20, go down there, meet the Chinese doctors, learn a lot about Chinese medicine. I'll tell you the date. It's in October. It's on Sunday. That's a lot of fun. You get a chance to be immersed in Chinese medicine. So our goal is to kind of whet your palate as far as this profession and make it really fascinating for you. It is just a fascinating field. A lot of history. So we'll study a little bit about fundamental principles of Ayurveda. We'll also study a little bit about naturopathic, the history of naturopathic diagnosis, how it started, and looking at your nails and your tongue and your eyes and your hair and your skin. What that means, have this problem and that problem, and how the old doctors, like what we call the eclectic doctors, those were the medical doctors at the turn of the century, who used a lot of these diagnostic techniques, and they were basically herbalists. Really, a lot of our work is founded by their work, and they had a strong hold in Cincinnati for some reason or another. Whole history as to why that's true. And now there's the library out there, which is not really kind of open to the public, but you can kind of sit there and they have the most, I think, 250,000 volumes on herbal medicine. And a lot of it dates back to the last century and century before. So it's really, that's the Lloyd Library in Cincinnati. So hopefully one day you'll get a chance to visit that and understand the thing. And then we'll study a little bit about philosophy, but I'm going to leave a lot of the philosophy to Dr. Sensitive. He's really good at it. And then some of the modern day folks that actually brought naturopathic medicine to our country here. Actually, our profession had a lot of roots in Germany, right? With the hydropathic movement. That's using water to cure people, whether it's steam or whether it's ice or whether it's water or sprays or what they call douches, contrasting hydrotherapy. That was really big. And then all these other kind of fields, which were very kind of eclectic, were sort of added on as time went on. But there, one good book, it depends how much money you want to lay out, I know everyone's tight. But one good book is the National Geographic's book. It's called, by a guy named Swerdlow, Joel Swerdlow. And it's called, I think, The History of Herbal Medicine or something like that. Another one is the Green Pharmacy, which is a classic one, by Barbara Grigg, right? That's a good one. If you have that, and a lot of these are in the library too. Study them. And I'm going to give you a lot of stuff, so you probably need a full notebook set aside for this class. Okay? As you'll see, you'll probably need a full notebook for all your classes. It's not high school dividers. You need like notebooks for everything. All right. Well, we're going to head off this way. We'll start our herb walk. We'll talk a little bit about the history of herbal medicine.
Cardiovascular?
Yeah, well, we'll start here. Might as well start here. The holly was a sacred herb to the Druids. There's many species of hollies. Some grow in the tropics. Some grow here. One of the tropical hollies was Ilex paraguayensis, which is what? Anyone know? Mate. Yerba mate. And mate is a popular drink. Usually the Argentinians carry around their little bombas. They drink it all over the place. When you go to South America on the bus, they're all sharing their mate with you. And mate contains many different antioxidants like green tea, Actually, some researchers think that it has more antioxidant potential than green tea. And it also contains some alkaloids, which are like caffeine, but more tonifying. See, caffeine kind of drains your body over time. That's why coffee is so bad for you. It's destructive. It actually causes you to release epinephrine, which is okay, but then you run out of it, you know, and you get epinephrine from hopefully having enough amino acids in your diet, but some people don't. Some people need more than others. So, and the precursor for that is the amino acid tyrosine, Tyrosine, tyrosine. It's one of the essential amino acids. You need it, and you know, supposedly people have enough, but when I test people, they don't have enough of this tyrosine in their body many times, particularly if they're overweight, because what major endocrine organs besides the brain and norepinephrine needs tyrosine to function properly? Your thyroid, very good, and your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands are very important. So you don't have enough tyrosine, your energy is going to go down the tubes and you're going to get sick very quickly. You drink coffee, it's sort of like, it's like wringing the adrenal glands out of the tyrosine, the norepinephrine, without replacing it. It gives you that quick burst, but it's not like a tonic. A tonic is an herb that herbalists have used that you could take on a daily basis. It's safe and it kind of builds the body. So mate has more tonic properties than coffee. So that would be a good way if you're trying to get off of this stuff. You could maybe use mate instead and see if that helps. Maybe take some tyrosine too. Well, that's a good step. You know, that's a step in the right direction too. Okay, but the Chinese use this for cardiac problems. This actually has what they call calcium channel blockers in it, some various molecules. So what that does is that causes the heart, the coronary vessels, to vasodilate. So now you're getting more blood to the heart, and this is used for a stable angina, or angina, that's how you want to say it, that's where you're from, right? So you wouldn't use it for an angina attack, right? You could use nitroglycerin or homeopathic or something like that. But this is very good for this. And of course it does have toxicity, so like many herbs, the toxic dose is very close to the therapeutic dose. You just have to read it and make sure you don't poison your patient or yourself, which is why you're going to take boards for this type of medicine, and if you pass, well then you know enough not to kill them.
What about
All right.
yerba mate?
Pardon?
Yerba mate, you're talking about mate yesterday?
Mate.
Yeah, but yerba mate, you mentioned
No, it's called yerba mate.
yerba mate.
All right, let's go. We're going to head this way.
It's going to light at
Yeah, I told a story yesterday to some of the other students. There was a Chinese sage who sent his student. He said, "Student, I want you to go find an herb that has no use." So the guy went out, didn't come back for years and years and years. Finally he comes back and says, very apologetic, "Master, I failed. I could not find an herb with any use." And the master said, "Now you are the master." So that's a little story, but it's true. Almost everything's got some benefit, you know. Now this is interesting. And by the way, weed in this class is a dirty word. No such thing as a weed. A weed is just a plant that's not in the right place, right? So anyway, I want you to look at this, and I want you to tear this open, and just try not to get that white sap on your fingers. Tear it around. Can you do a zoom on that white sap there? I don't know if you can get that close. Nice. Now this sap contains very powerful antiviral agents. Okay, so this was used on the warts. This sap contains alkaloids, and this is kind of in like the cactus family. This is called euphorbium. They call it gopher purge euphorbium. Okay, So you take this white sap and you put it on a wart. You can see the white sap on me. See that there? Don't get it in your eyes. It's caustic.
What's this called?
It's euphorbium. Euphorbium. Okay?
The plant is called euphorbium.
Euphorbium.
This is the same stuff right here? This is the same stuff?
That's it. Yeah, it grows all in the cracks there. See? And you just take your weed whacker and you go.
You got that?
Yeah.
It's like I'm
The virus, because of a wart, is caused by what virus?
Herpes
What
simplex,
virus
right?
causes a wart?
No, it's not
Yeah,
herpes.
human papilloma virus.
HPV.
Very good. We'll go in this more shady area.
what the heck did I just
Okay, there's a shady spot over here. We'll huddle up over.
Shade is good.
I know that much.
Now, if mosquitoes bother you, you could always go take some mugwort and put it on your skin. I'll tell you about that if you're starting to get eaten up. Okay? So there's a little bit of a shady spot. We can kind of see what's growing around here, and there's quite a bit. We'll wait for everyone to catch up here.
What about time off for these works? Does they work?
No, that doesn't work.
No?
But actually, maybe it would if you grind down the wort a little bit, you know. So, okay, we're here. Now, herbalists use a lot of different clues, and throughout history, ancient people used many different ways to figure out what herbs would kill them and what herbs would not. So what are some ways that you think that they used throughout history? This is a history class, so we have to tie it. Okay, trial and error. Yeah, that was one. And you can always trust an elderly person because they were still on the planet. You know, and if they said, "Oh yeah, if this herb was good, I tried this one," you could pretty much trust them because they didn't die. Okay, so well, what are some other ways that herbalists knew about?
On animals?
That's right. They would observe animals. Very good. Animals have an instinctual. They call it instinctual dowsing. They have an instinctual. You can watch your dogs and cats. What do they do when they're sick? They go to a specific grass. Not every grass. My cat only goes to certain patches of grass. I've been watching this feline for a long time, and they eat it, and then they purge themselves so that they would watch the animals. Yeah. What else is there? There's a very famous thing that was used by shaman and women healers. Pardon? Burning it, and yes, that's right. Burning it, and they would gaze into the fire and see. And visions. They would use what was called visionary or divination. And then they used what's called the doctrine of signatures. The doctrine of signatures states that the Creator put a holy signature on all plants. And that if you know this signature, you can figure out pretty much what this plant is used for. So we'll go through some of these plants here and see if we could find any doctrine of signature. So the first one we should talk about is this one here. This is like... And by the way, when you're gathering herbs, you try to do it in a more sacred manner. You just don't like tear the thing out, you know what I mean? Plants are, whether you believe it or not, plants have some type of a consciousness. If you ever read the book by Christopher Bird, The Secret Life of Plants, you realize that plants do respond to the environment. They respond to gravity, they respond to light, they even respond to music, believe it or not. So there is a consciousness there. So we just don't abuse them because they are living beings, you know. So, when there's a lot around, you can pretty much pick. I know, I thought it was something too. I was ready to jump. It's a beer bottle. So we have this very interesting plant here. Now, some who were here yesterday, yeah, this is all the same plants.
Okay.
I'm gonna hold this up here. Now look at this. You got a purple flower. You got leaf, vine-like stalk, and red little berries. Okay.
Poison.
This is called woody nightshade. It's not deadly nightshade. It's woody nightshade, or it's called dulcamara. And dulcamara was used for arthritis for hundreds and hundreds of years by medieval people. They would make a poultice out of this, grind it up, and apply it straight to the back with usually some type of carrier substance, usually like ground flax seeds or something like that. What they call a colloid. Like, think about it. If you sat in an oatmeal bath, that's a colloid. It's like a kind of a gushy, mushy vehicle to bring things through the skin. The skin is a great area to absorb substances. So this woody nightshade. Now the interesting thing is if you didn't have arthritis and you ate a lot of this, what would you develop? Arthritis. Isn't that interesting? That's called the law of similars, right? And you'll learn a lot about that, why that works, and I'll talk about that even in class here, a lot about the law of similars. But this really is excellent for a specific type of rheumatism when a storm is coming. Okay? So you can carry that. You might want, well, I guess if we have good pictures of it, we can leave the samples here. All right?
Okay, you were talking about signature.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, what would the doctrine of signatures be? Let's think.
Well, the red is kind of like poison.
That's right. Red usually
This is,
signifies in medicine. Red signifies either building blood or inflammation, like decreasing inflammation. So generally, that would be what you do. And this does not have the toxic compounds that deadly nightshade has. Deadly nightshade has atropine, scopolamine, and hyoscyamine. These are all very powerful drugs. Actually, some of them are used in the hospital. You're a medical doctor, right? What do we use atropine for?
To dilate your...
What else? To dilate your eyes. What else? What are they using in the ER for?
Okay, in the ER for heart.
That's right, to resuscitate your heart. That's how powerful this is. You're dying of, your heart stops, resuscitate. Okay, very powerful. But this doesn't have any of this. This has what's called solanine. Okay.
What part of the plant do you use?
You use the whole plant in this case. The whole plant.
And you were saying topically or more you're taking?
Well, obviously, if you're a gifted herbalist, you would know the toxic dose of this extract. A lot of it depends on the strength of the extract you're using. If you're going to make a tea is usually what strength? We always do like sort of like a proportion when we talk about strengths of medicines. So a tea is 1 part plant to 20 parts water, generally. And we don't use the word tea in our profession anymore, so strike tea out of your vocabulary now. The professional word is infusion. Infusion, okay?
Can I ask parts in what term? By weight?
1 part, yeah, by
weight.
volume actually,
By volume?
weight or volume. Depends on the particular
The volume of
scale
the
that you're
dry
looking at.
plant can be very different.
That's right.
Acid or
That's
fat.
exactly right. That's exactly right. That's why you need a copy of the pharmacopoeia to make sure you're getting the right weight of the plant, whether it's dried or fresh. That's a very good point. You hear that? There's a difference between dried herb and fresh herb, and all that is spelled out in a lot of the old books that we use in the formularies. So anyway, this is dulcamara. It's toxic, but remember, things that are toxic in lower doses are often therapeutic, right? There's no such thing as really side effects, only effects. It's just a matter of the dose, okay? Even water can be toxic in high enough doses. Well, we're going to break off one of these guys here.
Which one?
This one here. Okay? So we're going to break this off. Anyone have a pocket knife on him? Pocket knife?
Nope. You can get in jail right now for pocket knife.
You can't just bring him on the plane. But. You want to peel the bark for me of this? And you can. What I want you to do is peel a little bit of bark, and then hold it to your nose about 6 inches away. Tell me what you smell. Actually, you could just
It's too close. 6 inches. Don't do that.
don't go so fast. Don't go so
Never
close.
inhale it like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's right.
Cherry? Smell cherry? From there?
Let me smell it.
This has a apricot, bitter almond-like, cherry-like smell. You just pass it around to your colleagues.
Can we get a close up of it right
And
there?
this is wild cherry, where we use this for cough medicine. It's been used for cough medicine for hundreds of years. Don't put it too close to your nose; it's too strong. But you can appreciate the smell from about 6 inches away. Kind of has a
What is this?
cherry-like.
Cherry?
You guys got it back there? Wild cherry bark was used
Anybody want
as a...
to smell?
Now, wild cherry bark is not a cough suppressant. It actually makes you cough, which means it's a expectorant. Expectorant. It's not a sedative. Okay? Yes, it does contain a little bit of cyanide. So again, the dose is important to follow the recommendations. But it was used by... it's probably one of the best things for bronchitis. Okay? Yes, it has That's right.
Yeah.
Wild cherry bark right here. You can actually see the wild cherries forming on that tree there. If you want to,
Where is it?
Robert, if you want to do a zoom
Oh, I
on that,
see.
you see those little cherries there?
Can you eat them?
Yes.
Yes, those are edible.
When they're getting black.
There's another one right down there. They're very powerful. They're not like regular cherries. You know, these are overpowering as far as taste go.
When it comes to like berries and cherries and those kind of things, how do you know which ones are
Well, that's when you get the Peterson. Who's gonna be my Peterson's guy?
This one dried up. They dried up. Overripe.
I don't want to bother you.
A woodsman's mosquito remedy.
All right, this is good.
You grab mugwort. Now I want you to smell this mugwort. And you rub it on your skin. This is what we do in Jamaica when we go on our trip. By the way, if you want to come to Jamaica with me up into the mountains, we're going in March.
Oh, really?
It's a fantastic field trip. You can go to my website and find out about it. My website is DrZnaturally.com.
And what's the name of this?
This is mugwort.
Wow.
Dr. Z Naturally, all one word. DrZ Naturally, one word. And you can see about our UB trip to Jamaica. Pardon? Well, we can't take 1,500 people because it is kind of like an eco tour. We go to a pretty fragile place.
How expensive is it?
Expensive.
Well, it's an expensive place, Jamaica.
It depends what you call expensive.
All right, so that's mugwort. Now, mugwort is a member of the.
Mugwort.
Anyone know what family it is? That's right.
Who?
It's in the mint family.
Oh, it's a mint.
And all mints have a square stem. Everyone in the mint family has a square stem, and you can feel that that's kind of
What the hell is the name
square
of
side. Okay.
Watermint?
And mugwort. The reason why they call it mugwort is because it was used for tea by the English. And the word wart is not like a wart growing on your skin, like that other herb took away. It's W-O-R-T, which is the old British word for plant. Okay? And mugwort is used by the Chinese for moxibustion. Who has a degree in acupuncture here? Or, that's right. So this is used for moxibustion, which is to heat the acupuncture needle to bring the heat into the meridians.
Wow.
Now, mugwort also some species of mugwort have been developed into anti-malaria drugs that are for what they call quinine-resistant malaria. Okay.
What is it?
Now we have they call this bindweed or wild morning glory. The seeds are hallucinogenic.
Morning glory.
Okay.
Morning glory. Morning glory.
Now here we have just wild raspberries, Rubius idea. Wild raspberry leaves have fragrine in them, which is a compound that relaxes the uterus, and it's a women's remedy, and it also builds up the blood. It's used during pregnancy. Any people into midwifery here? The midwife makes the women drink raspberry tea throughout the pregnancy. It's a very safe herb throughout pregnancy.
Which one is it?
Raspberry. Big briar up there, all up in there. Right. Now we have some burdock. Now this burdock is dead, but at least we'll get a chance to see. Now, as part of my weed walk, everybody gets to wear a button. Oh, it didn't stick. This is where the guy that developed Velcro figured it out. This is the wild man's natural button here. You are now a graduate of Wild Man's School of Herbalism. This is how Mother Nature distributes seeds, right? They get up on your pants. This is the burdock. Burdock is one of the most powerful cleansing herbs for the lymphatic system. It has immune properties, cleans out the blood. It's what they actually call an alterative, which means it helps you throw off all kinds of toxins for detoxification. You don't need to wear it, but if you want to.
So comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Fine.
Why would it be used on you for skin problems?
And it holds on pretty tight.
That's right, because if your skin is breaking out, it means that some other part of your organs of elimination aren't working properly. So the skin, in naturopathic medicine, we call the skin the third kidney. You got 1, 2, 3. So if the kidneys or the liver are not working to detoxify substances, the skin will kick in. A lot of mushrooms are medicinal. Does anyone know a lot about mushrooms here? Anyone?
I pick up mushrooms.
A little bit?
Yeah. A lot.
This is a polypore. It's called a polypore, or what they call a shelf fungus. A lot of the shelf fungus are some of the strongest for the immune system. Like, has anyone heard of maitake? Yeah, that's a shelf fungus, you see? This one, I don't know the exact species, but it's in the Polyporaceae, which by the way, there's no toxic cousin, so it's safe to eat when it's young.
A sap.
Yeah, it's just sap.
Is there some kind of sap?
Why isn't it safe to eat when it's old?
Pardon?
Why wouldn't you eat it when it's old?
It's rotten. Yeah, mushrooms go bad really well. So some mushrooms are very good, obviously, and some are very poisonous.
And you can tell by you said the ones that grow like shelf.
Well, most
as
of the
opposed
ones
to the
that
ones
grow
in the
on the
ground?
wood in a shelf-like fashion are not poisonous. And you find some really good ones in the woods, like chicken mushroom. You ever see that? It's kind of orange and yellow. Hopefully we'll see some of that on a walk or whatever.
A lot of the Appalachian Trail guys going up north will eat that.
That's right. You get it by the huge chicken mushroom. It tastes like chicken. That's good. Very good. Okay. Here's one that's interesting. Pocket knife? Who's got a pocket knife? Anybody?
Right here.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Terrorists. Ouch. That's why they call it barberry. Let's see if I can get this off. Okay. So this is called barberry. That's because it's got these big bars here. You gotta be careful. Barberry. The Latin is berberis. B-E-R-B-E-R-I-S. Now, when you peel it, you will see the yellow bark. Right? That's where the medicinal components are in this bark. This contains alkaloids. This alkaloid is called what? Does anyone know? Berberine. Everyone heard of that before? Yeah. Berberine? Berberine is the active antibiotic alkaloid that's found in golden seal and other very important antimicrobial plants. This is used in India for dysentery. It's found in a lot of different species, but it kills all manner of organisms. Very powerful medicine that we use, berberine. And it only comes from certain species, but from the bark of these plants. Let's see, now I'll pass it around. When I taste it, it's very bitter. And usually things that are very bitter, just be careful of the barbs, you can pass it around. Things that are very bitter, you can see a little on here too, are very good for the stomach, liver, digestive system. And ancient people, when they tasted something bitter, generally they would stay away from it, or they would know it was some type of a medicine. Thank you. Okay, so barberry is out in Washington and Oregon. We have Oregon grapefruit, which is very similar, and golden seal is another one that's very similar. Okay. What kind of oak is this? Is it red or white? Red oak. Red pin oak. Well, the leaf is sharp. In oaks, the white oak, the leaf is rounded, and red oak contains lots of medicinal compounds. White oak contains tannins. Tannins are very medicinal. They're great for your skin, like witch hazel contains lots of tannins. What do you use witch hazel for? Infection, drying out poison ivy, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So tannins tend to have a drying astringent. That's why when you drink a cup of tea, black tea, which has lots of tannins, and you don't put lemon or cream in it, what happens to your mouth? It feels very dry and astringent. Yeah. Here's one that's interesting. Anyone know what this is? Pardon? Nope. Close. Cedar? Nope. This is yew. Yew. Y-E-W. The genus is Taxus. T-A-X-U-S. And for people that don't know, is many species of Taxus have, now they've discovered a very interesting compound from this tree called Taxol. You've heard of that before? It's used to treat ovarian cancer. Okay? And there was a whole controversy with logging these trees out in Washington because they were the only place where the spotted owl lived. Remember all that? Yeah. It was the lumberjacks against the environmentalists. But it turns out that you don't need to kill the tree to get the Taxol. All you need is the needles. So that was good news for this species. Because when this was considered a throwaway tree for loggers to get to the nicer cedar and other trees and Douglas fir. And so it was fortunate for this that they found that this is medicinal, and it was considered the only place for the spotted owl, which is an endangered species. And now we don't have to kill the tree or chop off the bark. All we got to do is use the needles. Okay?
What is the medicinal properties again?
Well, it's used for ovarian and lung cancer. majestic.
I feel like I have follow one.
Beech. Beech nuts are very edible. In the fall, this will be loaded with nuts that you can eat.
Is it beach?
Yeah,
Of course,
beach
you gotta
nuts.
fight the squirrels for it. They love it too. And it's a great food source, wild food source.
Wild things.
Beach nuts.
It's got a mess going on. Any of you know about this one? Wait for everyone to get Why?
Start chewing on the plants.
I know.
Makes a nice bookworm.
Yeah, it does actually.
This is the ginkgo tree.
Ah.
This is ginkgo. Ginkgo biloba. You've heard of that remedy. It comes from this tree here. And this is a great doctrine of signatures tree, because if you look at this, it kind of looks like half of a brain, sort of a slice.
Hemisphere, you're right.
And when you turn it over, it kind of looks like the lungs. You know, the lobes of the lungs, the bronchial tree.
Okay.
Trachea and the bronchi. And sure enough, in Chinese medicine, it was used for the bronchi, really. It really was more of a recent discovery that it was considered a brain or cerebral tonic. And we know there's a lot of research on ginkgo now. You can really see it in this younger leaf here. Why they call it biloba. Now, does that look like a lung upside down?
Oh, yeah.
See?
Also biloba.
That's right, biloba. So, and this has a tremendous amount of antioxidants in it, like one of the highest of all plants. That's why it could survive living in New York City. And it was planted in the 70s because it was one of the only plants, that and the sycamore, could survive all the pollution. Now it's a very ancient tree. It goes back to the dinosaurs, because this is a male and that one over there is the female. So they're, unlike many trees, you have separate, and these are called gymnosperms still, just like the pine trees. It's the only living member of its species that's still left. And trees like this go back to the dinosaur era. It's amazing prehistoric example. Now the female tree drops the fruit down in the fall soon. Maybe it's doing it now. Let's go over there. I want you to get a whiff. Because the fruit...
How like the female part produces like fruit, and then that part. This is so nice.
Now I kind of don't even want to touch it. Oh, it smells so bad. If anyone wants a ginkgo tree for their yard,
You just touch it a
you
little.
dig up
and
one
it
of these
smells.
little seedlings there. Ginkgo trees are beautiful.
Can you start them indoors or do you have to be outside?
Absolutely.
No, these have to grow outside. But if you have a yard, you
Do you
can
know
grow
from
this.
the
No, you don't know.
You don't know if it's a male or female.
don't know.
So you just have to get.
It's a crapshoot. Now the female inside this fruit is, let's squish it up so we can smell it. Don't step it on your shoes. Let's get if someone grab me a stone or a stick.
She's doing.
Oh, you're doing it?
I'm sorry.
Brave. It might not be ripe enough to smell, but let's see. Let's see if you're brave. Smell yet? No?
No.
Okay, it hasn't smelled yet. Well, this contains butyric acid. Did you ever do that in organic chemistry when you had to synthesize fatty acids, short chain fatty acids like that? Do you remember what butyric acid smelled like? Smelled like baby barf. Bad Limburger cheese. A bad old pair of sandals. And what else?
Yeah, but we are looking at the birch right now.
Yeah, you're looking at the birch.
This is it.
This is interesting that this birch is growing right out
Inside
of the roots.
It surely
So it's interesting. No, the ginkgo is right here.
That's something.
And there's a fruit there. There's a fruit that's going to drop down. Now inside, the seed of the ginkgo is a delicacy in China.
Inside the fruit.
Inside the fruit, but you
People are
gotta
really brave to get it.
gotta deal with the fruit. 'Cause it really smells.
Who's getting the seeds out?
What do you do with the seeds?
Seeds are delicious.
Oh my God.
I don't know how they. I don't really know how they. Yeah. Anybody with Chinese ancestry?
We eat
That their mother? You eat the seeds?
Yeah, in
And
Japan.
are they good in Japan? Yeah. How do you cook them? Raw? Eat them raw?
Roast them.
You roast them. See?
Dry it for a couple of days.
Dried and roasted. But you gotta open it up because it stinks, right?
Yeah, so you get
Let's
a
have this
plastic
one.
bag and then you dig through it and get the
Now,
seed and
when
wash
do they harvest ginkgo? When is it the strongest in medicine? That's right, when the leaves turn yellow and they start to fall, which is pretty soon. Then they're the highest in these bioflavonoids that are very specific to the ginkgo. And those are the ones that are great antioxidants for the brain. What else do they do? What else does ginkgo? It enhances circulation to the brain. It straightens out neurotransmitters in the brain.
What about for
lowers
the
blood
lungs?
pressure. Pardon?
When you said it was used for the lungs, what exactly in the lungs was it?
Well, it's used for asthma, actually. It was often mixed with certain other herbs, depending upon whether the asthma was moist or dry. You know, in Chinese medicine, you look to see if the asthma is moist or is it dry. What's a moist asthma? Somebody would be like coughing up sputum, we call it in medicine. You know, right? Sputum. And a dry asthma, they'd be very dry. They need moisture. So Chinese medicine is very logical. If you're dried out, you provide moisture. If you're moist, you dry it out. Very simple. Yin and yang balancing is very simple. Of course, then you can make it real complicated, like Chinese medicine is. It's a fairly simplistic idea, and that's great because it works. It's like one of those ancient systems that still works, even though it's thousands of years old, right? Let's head this way. Excuse me, we don't have time here. We gotta leave one class. It's before class.
It's nice camera.
It's like a graduation present.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Little did you know.
I know, right? Oh, that hurt.
Still filming?
Yeah. So I can find the location and stuff, you know, and come back to it. You know where you find
Does
it.
anyone know what this tree is? Because I've been dying to find out. It doesn't look like Jamaica.
Isn't that an elephant ear or something?
Tropical.
What is it?
I don't know. I don't know. So what I want you to do is let's shoot some video. No, I don't think so. Shoot some video.
Looks like a
and we'll-
tobacco leaf, doesn't
And
it?
we'll send it off to the New York Botanical
Seriously, you
Garden.
don't know?
I don't know.
Oh, wow,
I wish
that's
I did.
fun.
I wish I did.
It's not in any of
But
the
isn't it
bags.
wouldn't you
Oh,
like
look.
one in your yard?
Yeah,
That's what I'm
sure.
Color, do you notice?
It looks
It has
like
these
one of
beautiful flowers.
those. It looks like one of those tropical.
No, it doesn't have great color. It just drops the leaves down.
Oh, just drop.
But this is one on campus that I've been dying to know what the heck they call.
Like artichokes, huh? Yeah.
It's like it's got a little bit.
So maybe we could do a zoom, Robbie, we could do a zoom of the flower, and we can ask one of the botanists at the New York Botanical Garden.
We should have a field trip. Next time, once you don't want to run for the pain.
Like what? The girls in Jamaica? What is it again?
This is the Kentucky coffee tree. Probably you've seen these all over New York and all over the place. Now you can, when this thing get in the fall, when we get the big pods from it and it drops down to the ground, you could take these seeds and roast them, just like you roast coffee. And it's the closest taste to coffee. You know, you go to the health food store and you buy these coffee substitutes and they taste like nothing like coffee. You just kind of get used to them. They don't have that like bitter. Now, of course, this won't have caffeine, but it has the same taste as coffee, that like bitterness that you're looking for. When you have chicory or barley or postum, or it's just not the same for us coffeeholics.
So are you going around roasting them?
So we will roast them this fall. Okay.
What kind of tree is it?
Then grind it up. Then you grind it up in a coffee grinder.
Are they acid or not? Because some coffee grinds are acid, some
This isn't really too acid.
not to us.
It's beautiful. You love it. It does not help. It doesn't hurt your stomach. It's not toxic.
So why isn't that on the market then?
Because it doesn't have caffeine in it. I don't know why it's not commercially more viable.
Probably not too many
A lot
trees.
of people.
Somebody should think of making a market out of this. Make tons of
Anyone know
money.
what this is?
First think about seeds and then...
You know what this is? This is rhododendron. Now rhododendron is very medicinal. There's all kinds of species of rhododendron that are very medicinal.
What does it have?
This thing contains alkaloids and glycosides, but the main medicinal use of this is in arthritis. Now, you would only use it in a tea form because it does have a lot of toxicity. Mostly it's used in homeopathy. When you take rhododendron, like say 3 or 4x potency, and we'll talk about potencies in homeopathy if you've never even heard about that term. But it's very good for, again, arthritis, worse before an electric storm, like before a thunderstorm. When your bones feel the weather better than the Weather Channel.
Right.
You'd say, man, there's a storm coming, my bones hurt. Or a patient tells you that.
They don't even show
That's
the
a
work.
key. That's a keynote. They call that a keynote in homeopathy. In other words, the patient says something, and something clicks in your brain and says, "Wait a minute, I know that medicine that's going to help you. You have your bones hurt before an electric storm. This is your medicine." So that's how precise you get. Hopefully, when you graduate from here, if you're interested in homeopathy, you know, it's based on very precise symptomology.
Specific.
Very specific. Okay?
And what do you use?
Yeah.
Leaf?
Leaves.
In what form? Tincture?
No. Remember I said it was very toxic, so we use it as homeopathic.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
You have sound on the video?
Yeah. I'm relying on the sound too, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Robert, don't be shooting people's hearts.
I'm not. I'm more professional than that, all right?
Going around. Only for these classes, right?
No? We got a few different medicinal species here. Just be careful because there is poison ivy here. Now, if you don't know what poison ivy is, now's your chance to learn it. There are a lot of people that know it. Be careful. This plant is not poison ivy, but it does have a lot of spines on it. Okay? This is poison ivy. There's all kinds of funny sayings with poison ivy. The famous one is what? Leaves of 3, leave them be. Right? So you can see the 3 leaf, and they're usually shiny. That's poison ivy.
Yellower one?
No, that's not poison ivy.
The one under the little leaves
We're
are.
going to go over that one. Okay, so poison ivy. Now, is poison ivy, remember the old Chinese saying, what the shaman said, is poison ivy medicinal?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Poison ivy is used in homeopathic medicine for arthritis and other conditions. And poison ivy, again, is very similar, actually, medicinally, to rhododendron, as far as the indications. The indications for poison ivy is, do you ever see The Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man? What happened to the Tin Man? He was out chopping wood and a rain came and he He seized up. And then the more he moved, the better he got. That's the indications for using poison ivy, which we call in Latin Rhus, R-H-U-S. Rhus toxicodendron is the Latin. Rhus toxicodendron, right? And so we use it for arthritis and rheumatism of the muscles, worse with inactivity and better with activity. This is like the people that, you take a long car ride and you get out of the car and you're stiff as a board. And you're fine, by the way, you're fine after you take a hot shower. You're ready to go. Because the blood, this is one of the best blood movers that we have in medicine. It moves the blood. In arthritis, there's a lack of blood flow. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but there's a lack of blood flow to the muscles and the joints. That's most evident when you've been inactive for a very long time. Most people, when they sleep, they're fairly inactive. So when they wake up, the blood is not flowing through their extremities that well, and they feel stiff until what? They either move their lymphatic and blood, jump on a trampoline, or take a hot shower with maybe a little bit of a cold rinse. That really gets the blood moving. And then they're fine all day. And at night, they start stiffening up again. So that's Rhus tox. It's also good for poison ivy too. If you have a case of poison ivy or some weeping eczema where there's a lot of bubbles with weeping stuff, it's used for that as well. It kind of cancels that out. You see?
But homeopathically, correct?
Yeah, you don't want to be in this regular thing. You'll get a bad case. Although the lumberjacks out in Washington do use it. They, at the first sign of when it first starts to green up, very tiny bud, they take one bud and they eat it. And that acts as an oral vaccine against getting massive cases of poison ivy when you're working in the woods all day and you're bound to run into it. You know what I mean?
Did that.
So it's an oral vaccination. I wouldn't recommend that, but that's what they do, and I've seen it done, and it's been successful. But you will what they call prove the remedy, which means you will get a mild case of poison ivy, just like a vaccine. When you get polio, you get a mild case of polio, right? So it's very similar. But you don't need to stick to. The good thing about homeopathy is it shows that you don't need to stick to organisms to do vaccinations. You can use other things. Now the other herb here is called smilax. S-M-I-L-A-X, or sarsaparilla. Has anyone heard of sarsaparilla?
Yeah. It's a tonic, isn't it?
That's right. It's a tonic for the adrenal glands, a sexual tonic. It builds up it has what they call steroidal saponins in it. It has basically steroids in it, natural steroids. And this is, of course, our hardy type that grows here. It's different than the West Indian type, but that's a cousin. That's still a smilax. This is called smilax, I can't remember, but we call it greenbrier is the common name. Greenbrier or bullbrier. It has big spikes. That's why it's a briar. It forms these big patches. We use the root of this. The root is where we find these steroidal molecules that are very good if you're, for potency issues. It's the Jamaicans in Jamaica, like when we go down there, the men use it. They call it the Roots Man Tonic. It's a tonic, and they use it daily. Any tonic can be used daily.
Mix it with a lot of other stuff.
They mix it with other things too. Okay, so that's the sarsaparilla. Let's head this way, and we'll make a U back towards the garden.
That's your camera or his?
Mine?
That's yours?
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna put on it on the computer and put on the TV. You can like watch on the TV.
Poison ivy, if you have sandals, beware. Because if you brush against it, now you can notice that it's lighter yellow here, but it's still shiny Leaves of 3, leave it be. However, I will show you this one. Huh?
Oh, I have those in my
Now this is a great medicinal species. That's right. Who said that? Very good. Looks like carrots, and that's because it's called wild carrot. Thanks, Gordon. This is known as, does anyone know what this is? This is Queen Anne's lace, but it's a young Queen Anne's lace. Queen Anne's lace is a biennial. You'll see fields and fields of it as you drive out of Bridgeport. It has a beautiful white flower now, like an umbrella. But this is in the same family as a lot of the Chinese women tonics, carrot family, like Dong Guai. Has everyone heard of Dong Guai? It's very good for balancing out hormones, has phytoestrogenic properties, relaxes the uterus, and it's delicious in salads. It has a carrot. I'm going to pass it around here. It's a little tougher than a carrot, but if you smell it, it's identical to a carrot.
Oh, yeah.
Hold it still for a second. Let me get a close up.
That's right. Even carrots can be used medicinally. Of course, they mostly use the carrot seeds medicinally. It also builds up the blood. It has a lot of B12 in it. For a vegetable to find a lot of B12 is very rare.
Which vegetable?
Wild carrot. That's right. So it's good for vegetarians. And it's very good if you're going through chemo or radiation so that your bone marrow doesn't go down the tubes, if you know what I mean. You know?
Is this one it?
No, that's a Artemisia. That's the mugwort that we already studied there. Okay?
How about this tree here?
That's a holly, like we did, like when we first started. Okay? And that's a sumac. Big sumac tree. Well, that's not a poison sumac.
No, that's...
Now here's another thing. I went around waiting for everyone to gather around. This is called, well, the common name is Ohio buckeye, otherwise known as horse chestnut. Horse chestnut. And this is probably the best remedy for varicose veins that exists, and spider veins. It's used internally in a standardized medicine, and they've actually compared this in clinical trials, which we'll review, if not this year, next year, when you take botanical medicine with me and Dr. Brett. This has lots of these flavonoids in them again. You'll find that most of the medicinal parts of plants all boil down to having flavonoids. Flavonoids are very powerful. And this one actually improves the hemodynamics of the vein. See, when you have a varicose vein, it's like an inner tube of your bike tire. Say you're pumping it up, right? And all of a sudden there's one area that's weak. What's going to happen when if you keep pumping it up? It's going to go boom, right? That's what happens with a varicose vein. It's a weakening of your connective tissue. You'll learn about that in histology class this semester or next. Taking histology now? Yeah. So you'll learn about connective tissue and what it's made out of. Collagen and the 4 or 5, or I think it's up to 7 types of collagen that exists and what knits your tissue together. Well, somebody with varicose veins, they obviously probably have some genetic predisposition to it, but beyond genes, there's a lot of, because of their diet, their weight, lack of exercise, and the lack of flavonoids and antioxidants in their diet. This is basically an antioxidant for your vein. And there's a guy, one of my friends died last year, young guy in his 40s. He flew to Japan and he just dropped dead of a pulmonary embolism, right? Why? Because he probably had his legs crossed the whole flight. And that's right. Explain that.
Deep vein thrombosis.
That's right. Deep vein thrombosis. It's like a clot.
You smoke, you're a sedentary fat obese.
A lot of stuff that makes the hemodynamics. By hemodynamics, I mean the dynamics of how your blood flows and thicken. Now, if you're taking ginkgo, that wouldn't happen. Or if you were taking Ohio Buckeye, or aspirin, if you're an allopathic-minded person, you take aspirin. You see, aspirin has its own problems. Ginkgo
contains coumarin.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We'll go into the herb garden now for the last bit of time.
That's the casing for a horse chestnut.
This is a good thing to travel back to.
casing?
No.
So what happened to what's inside of it?
Maybe a squirrel ate it.
Yeah, I was going to say Bugs Bunny got it. Right? So you can bring it back. That's a good. And let's bring back an Ohio Buckeye. Okay, but there are some great. Let's move over here. Stand in the shade. You're gonna get a kick.
What's this thing?
These are just. It just goes to show you that that Chinese proverb is right. You're like, man, this Dr. Z is crazy, man. He's just picking up weeds. There's no such thing as a weed. Remember. So right here we have some fantastic plants. This plant is eaten by a majority of West Indians. The Jamaicans call this callaloo.
Oh yeah.
That's right. That's right. This is callaloo. It's also known as wild pigweed. That's right. It's in the same. This is in the amaranth family. This is a cousin to the ancient Aztec super grain called amaranth, one of the highest protein grains around. And what I do is I just steam these leaves up. Of course, I wouldn't eat it in Bridgeport here. But I would find an area that's at least several hundred feet from the road, back in the woods, check it around for garbage and other toxins, and then I would say, okay, this looks good. And I would gather this if it was very abundant. If it was not abundant, would you over-harvest it? No. That's just common sense in biology. But this is one of the highest sources of iron of all. This has 10 times the iron of spinach. And it's a wild green, and no one eats it. They weed whack it.
Wow.
Pass that around.
So what's in the spinach family?
Well, it's actually in the amaranth family, the Amaranthaceae.
Does that grow naturally here?
That's right. No, that's. Here's another one that's a wild, edible green. Has everyone seen this before? Yeah. This is called lamb's quarter. Lamb's quarter. Now, lamb's quarter, it has even a nicer flavor, I think, than the wild callaloo there. Lamb's quarter is a cousin to the other ancient grain of the Incas this time, which is quinoa. Oh man, you get an A. Nice job. This is a cousin to quinoa. You know how to spell quinoa?
No.
Quinoa. You probably have seen that at the health store. Some people call it quinoa, but it's actually pronounced quinoa. One of the highest, again, sources of nutrition. It's right here in your backyard. Right? Tons of iron. Depends on the soil. But, you know, the better the soil, the better the plant.
And how do you use this?
Steam these. These are the best thing in an omelet. This is awesome in an omelet. And the Latin is chenopodium. Chenopodium, goose foot. Goose foot. Podium means, right, like pseudopod, foot. Goose foot. And we'll bring this back too. Now this is called lady's thumb. This is lady's thumb, another edible wild plant. Now this is a cousin to the famous Chinese tonic known as pho tea. You ever hear of pho tea? It's also called ho shu wu. And there's a story, another Chinese proverb, of a man who went into an older man who was, you may want to get the flower around there. The older man who was gray hair, all shriveled up, right, sickly, and he got lost in the woods. And he was lost through the winter. They thought he died. He comes out of the woods, his hair is jet black. He goes on to father like 3 or 4 more kids. He's a big stud now. And they're like, what did you take? And he says, I took this herb here.
It's made in shampoos.
I don't know if that's herbal.
Herbal essence.
Okay. Gordon's point's well taken. It actually has been shown to help cases of alopecia, which means hair loss. Not male pattern, but if it's due to hormones, mostly due to hormones.